We're back. Second week of college football. I've got my slobber and hog on. We're undefeated for the time being.
You're not playing Pine Bluff anymore, but
yeah, we have our first test in Oklahoma State this week. I'm not super excited about it, but we'll see. Today we've got Richard and Marat. Richard's the COO over at AI Driller, and Marat's the CEO. Appreciate you guys joining us today, man.
Appreciate you putting me first. First place, second place.
It's got to be the hair.
I mean, as someone who doesn't have any anymore, I do appreciate a good set of locks.
Yeah, I had to pay him $10 to announce me first.
Shh.
Whatever. Get what you can get while you can get it.
And appreciate you joining us, Marat, as well. You're in the Middle East right now, yeah?
Yeah. I hope my internet is good enough.
Yeah, I think it'll all work out. Sometimes it may look a certain way, but I think when it all buffers, it comes through with better quality and everything.
So our news story for this week is I don't even know the names of the people, but shout out to them for fun ideas with AI. They deployed a bunch of AI agents in Minecraft and let them just autonomously start going to town. And apparently they've set up all kinds of normal things like economies and bartering systems and trade and all this fun stuff. And so you guys have AI in the name. I thought that was a fun story to kind of lead into talking about what you guys are doing and AI and, the usefulness of AI moving forward, how people are going to start actually doing stuff. I mean, this is a fun, concept, but it's also not the simplest thing in the world to do. So it's interesting to see kind of how people are approaching these things and how you can translate those into real world use cases.
Yeah. So from us, honestly, it's fun. There is fun story about the name on the AI Driller in general. But overall, like what we see with AI, especially in the industry, things get overused, right? Like we were talking through 2016, big data was a thing. Now then AI became a thing. Now GPT is a thing, so this is why sometimes, it actually burns us in the name. People are like, okay, where's AI? What's AI? What's AI? Everybody expects something out of it. But coming back to the name perspective, we were working on the project with Shell at the time. And we need to come up with a name for the project. We were working on automation of control system for the rig. I'm staying on the floor with the driller, using my phone, trying to find a free domain name for the project, and on the AI Driller on it. And I was like, man, that sounds pretty fun. So I talked to the driller and I said, what do you think on the name AI Driller? He's like, he's a driller, right? He's like, man, this is the best name I ever heard in my life. What AI means. This is exactly what. And so this what became the name of the project, then became the name of the company later on, and became the name of a product on that front. But
that's awesome.
People always think that names from companies come from some kind of sophisticated thought process, or it's always like some craziness. And you're on a Google or GoDaddy or something, and you're trying to look up all these names, and it took me, like whenever I started my first business, it took weeks for me to come up with my official name. So. Kind of funny hearing that story. He asked a driller if he liked the word AI Driller. Duh.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it's spot on, because it's like the people who took a lot of time, in my experience at least, you end up running into like, oh, well, someone else has that cool domain name too. So now I've got to go back to the drawing board and find something else, or find a weird, .ai or .io or whatever.
And I wouldn't be surprised.
That's something I always tell everyone.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is like a bunch of AI bots running through all the free domains and just buying them up at $5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to resell later. Some of the names you can, they hundreds of thousands of dollars right now.
With that, like, was or is artificial intelligence like a core part of what your business model was, or did it just happen that, cool name? And, you maybe knew ultimately you want to kind of involve some elements of that. You're just kind of curious because, obviously since 2022, December, like AI has taken a whole new different meaning for people since before then. So just kind of curious where the genesis was.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you starting a company, right? So the first thing you're going to meet with a bunch of investors and everything else. So AI becomes part of your decks. Like, what are you guys doing differently? I'm applying artificial intelligence, applying certain ways of doing things. And of course, like we work in automation world, so you have to, consume a lot of data real time and make decisions based on it. So there is certain levels of mathematical like processing will be involved, and AI is very broad. First, what does it mean? Artificial intelligence, based on what, right? So there's multiple machine learning techniques being used to process the data, clean it up, structure it in a way to put, to get insights out of it. And this is our part of our business day to day. At the same time, we do a lot of things which are not AI. Like in a drilling world, you need to design a well, and AIs tend to change the answer. In the engineering world, the answer have to be the same every single time with the same inputs. So we rely a lot on physical-based models as well as normal mathematical modeling. And when it comes to the answers to your CEO of the operator or E&P company, he needs to know like what exactly my budget was, what exactly my actual cost was, what exactly like how many wells I drilled. AI can be used, but he needs exact number. So at the end of the day, if you're going to be audited against those numbers later on, so it is like there is certain aspects of things when the KPIs has to be based on actuals. The engineering outputs they have to be based on specific design outputs, and AI is used to make data more accurate and across all those aspects of things. And this was I think one of the biggest things from what we were excited with you guys on the Collide GPT specifically. It's just it's not the overall good boy answer. It's specific tailored to the industry platform when you can actually trust with much more confidence. Trust answer as a drilling engineer, because it's not just a bunch of different stuff which drilling could be drilling a wall to hang the picture. You actually understand what the drilling and from the SPE papers and everything else from there. So that gives you much more confidence. Okay, it's it's learning from what I would learn as an engineer. And this is kind of I think in our industry, AI is part of everything nowadays, like part of Excel sheet, part of where we write emails. But it's the answer is always what's the benefit? Always what's the value I'm getting? Okay.
100%. So then one thing, because I'm at an operator, currently, and just kind of curious, have you actually had headwinds because you have AI in your name, especially since like GPT? Because I feel like there's clearly a lot of people that have been trying to capitalize on AI. So I think as soon as some people hear AI in the name or just even in the pitch deck, they're like, oh, these guys are just trying to capitalize on it. I'm just curious, how's it been trying to break through even just to get the meetings? And then we can maybe funnel that into getting buy-in from the consumers, on the product that all right, this automation is not going to steal your job. It's actually going to make you better at your job. And just trying to get people's head wrapped around being more comfortable with using that kind of technology, especially in high risk environments like drilling completions.
Yeah,
engineers hate we have
black boxes, right?
Yeah.
So that's what AI has been in the past. So how do you overcome that? Because you guys have gained a ton of traction.
That's one of the first questions he always gets. Where's your AI at? So it's
in the cloud.
You have to just talk about where your value's at. Talk about the automation that is in the system. The rig state detection, some of the machine learning and the automated math and the one-click buttons to get stuff done. So you just provide value. When people first ask that, what I always want to say is, where's your AI at? That's what I always want to tell people. See, everybody always talks about AI like they have AI all around their life. You know what I mean? And sometimes I don't even know what AI is, and I work for AI Driller.
Yeah.
So
I think even there, the lines have been blurred so much between AI and machine learning, deep learning, but even just going back to like just more direct methods. And it's like, even just if you're baking in, to your point, Marat, like SPE papers, like, different, academic papers and concepts, and you're actually just providing those. Like, is that AI? It's definitely is taking someone else's knowledge and applying it, programmatically. Mm-hmm. But I think it's probably up for interpretation. But just maybe at that highest level, like, where do you all draw the line between AI, machine learning, and
automation? Throw that word in there too. Automation. I hear that automation, a lot.
Yeah, like kind of the original question would be like, did it help us? It's kind of like yes and no, right? So from one side, like is the word overused? 100%. Overused for wrong reason? 100%. Is our industry educated enough what it actually means? Not at all. From that side, nobody knows what it means. Nobody actually studied any, there's very few people who went down and actually did a data science, not one-on-one course. Like, I'm not talking about writing its own code and doing any sort of, initial training from that. So a lot of industry, a lot of companies went through the whole data science department phase when they hired data science department and keep them on the floor and say, do some AI for us. On that front, so we went through those phases too. So ideas like were definitely overused. Like Richard said, we come up, what is AI? What AI means? We had twist of like AI is automation intelligence. AI is all inclusive. AI is this and that. But at the end of the day, like, it's kind of funny that out of AI driller, the way our customers call us, it's all AI. So like, even though that's the same two letters, which were kind of like, they say like being overused, this is what the name of the company today, like, if they refer to us and, hey, call AI guys. Hey, did you see the AI guys? Hey, have you tried the AI, like AI platform? So like, the way word which we were worried about, it just became like the name of the company and name of anything we do from that side. We shorten the name everywhere on mobile apps and everything else from there.
Sure.
But
it's branding. And again, like, I think to Richard's point, like, once you just demonstrate you can provide value, they don't even care. And again, it's a memorable name, so there's that too. I don't want to focus too much on it, but I just know, like, again, being someone who gets sold to a lot, or I have people even just jump into my LinkedIn messages all the time about this and that and the other. Like, you're just getting barraged with, AI this and imagine this and all these things. So just curious. I'm sure you guys run into those headwinds. And
well, what I always try to tell people is like, we're trying to make it better, right? Like automation, artificial intelligence, AI, whatever you want to call it. It's takes a long time for it to get to where it needs to be, right? People 100%. Want it to be here yesterday, and I'm like, well, look, we still got cars that aren't fully automated, and they've spent probably trillions of dollars, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, trying to do this process. You know what I mean? With big time investors, we don't have that in our industry. The software industry within oil and gas doesn't have the money and the finance. Marat had to bootstrap all this stuff by himself. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be an overnight thing, but we do automate right now. We do automate people's workflows throughout the entire operation, and we will make it better and better and better to where people are legitimately pressing one button or talking into something, telling it to do something. But what people have to understand is you have to be a part of it so that it can get to where you want it to be, right? So that's what we're doing. So
nice. So I guess probably for my own personal edification, and then just obviously for the users. The way I kind of want to slice this, and y'all can tell me if you want to go a different direction, but like, let's start from, say, like the front end that you have now, like how people interact with AI Driller, the value it adds there. And then maybe we can work back down the stack, or the process, and just talk about maybe some of the data cleansing and stuff that happens, and even the data ingestion, upstream of that. But if you want to like jump in, like, what does your platform provide today, and like, how do people interact with it on a day-to-day basis? And who are the consumers, I guess, is it a directional driller? Is it a drilling engineer? Is it all of them? All those kind of things.
Yeah, so the main idea for AI Driller is we are a communication platform across multiple, multiple stakeholders. So today, AI Driller used, if you go to like traditional drilling site right now, right, you have multiple vendors using completely different software packages, sitting, working on the same goal, but sitting different packages from that side. And with the introduction of a digital world, our demand from field guys been increasing every day. I want to see this metric, I want to see this KPI, and I want to see that KPI and everything else. So it's just like from your field perspective, your amount of paperwork they increases more and more. And then you pile on top of it what your customer requests from you to be tracked. So like it's
and don't forget the speed of drilling is increasing too, right? Yeah. So it's another you're stacking stuff on top of stuff,
Yeah, so
no, for sure. And like just so it's like Anki here too. I mean, like, is this onshore and offshore? International and domestic? Lower 48. Obviously, Marat's in Saudi right now, so I'm assuming they all are trying to.
There is a misconception that drilling is different from onshore to offshore, and longer conventional wells, unconventional wells. At the end of the day, all we're doing is making a hole in the ground. Whether we do it from the platform, from the little bitty rig, from that side. But what Rich is kind of mentioning, that efficiency, what we see in unconventional, like we can't afford any lag of performance in there. And that increase of efficiency has not been updated on the workflow perspective. Idea is if I'm as a drilling engineer, I speed out today, 15 to 30 procs if I only run one rig. Back in the days, it was 3-4 programs I need to create a year. I'm planning engineer right now, then I'm a operations engineer, then I go into review stage on my end. But nowadays, then each customer, what their goal is how do I scale up? How do I do more with less? How can my engineer do 3 rigs now? Meaning it's 90 procs a year. Think about 30x improve, change of actual reporting capabilities from that side. And that kind of brought one thing. And the same thing came with, if you're a drill site manager on the rig, what's happening with you? Now you have to plan for next well coming up. The Midland is where our office is at right now. It's probably the most efficient place to drill in the world. Especially being in the Middle East, seeing the different aspects of logistics and everything else. We don't appreciate what can things like Texas provide when they just do a call and everything is available for you almost same day. But what's happening from a lot of guys' perspective, we come to the rigs nowadays and it's just all the same thing over and over and over and over and over and again. And what we've done as industry, we accumulated a lot of data. It can be now used to completely automate the workflows for the guys. And this is what AI Jewelry kind of come in. So first of all, we bring everybody on the same page. We remove completely the paperwork from every single key stakeholder on the rig side. Everything falls in, and idea sometimes it's workflow is we pulled from sensors and create a reporting for them based on sensor data. Sometimes AI is used just be able to just go back to 400 wells long by let's say you're an E&P company and you bought a new asset and it's completely a bunch of folders and thousands of wells. You have no idea what to do with it, but you have to put a budget for next year what I'm going to be drilling. So this one AI will be used to process all that data and parse all those thousands and thousands of PDFs. And you guys, when you training Collide, you appreciate differences between reporting of one vendor versus another and everything else from that side. So it's anywhere from data processing and data processing to image recognition from that side. And also then
I think that's one of the big things that I want to point out is we've been talking about AI and stuff, and yes, you guys have enablement via AI, but there's so many things, especially in the oil field, especially on the services side, where it's just combining workflows or centralizing data or stringing workflows together like they are in the real world, but in one place, brings an inherent efficiency and optimization right out of the box, right? Which is why I think there's been so many of these cloud tools that have popped up in oil and gas, whether it's on the production reservoir drilling or completion side that gain so much market share, because it's not necessarily that they have like a ton of secret sauce. And I'm not saying that you guys don't have any secret sauce, but just by putting it in the cloud from the traditional platform or workflow that it was, you're enabling these integrations, these, stringing of workflows together, these automations and things like that, again, inherently optimize and speed up a lot of this stuff. And then you layer ML and AI on top of it to make it even more efficient, faster, automated, and things like that, right?
Yeah, and Bobby, also to answer a little bit of your question, pretty much everybody on the rig site is going to be an AI driller, from MWDs and all their surveys to the directional driller, all their BHAs, pre and post. We have a full directional drilling suite on there with anti-collision, all that kind of stuff, geosteering. The company man is going to have like pace on view on there, parameter comparisons, roadmaps, all that kind of stuff for performance. Same with the drill and engineer. We have well progs on there. We have full blown engineering modeling suites in there for torque and drag and hydraulics. Nice. And then for management and all that stuff, we got all kinds of like KPIs and pretty much anything that you can imagine that you would want to look on your organization and say, hey, where can we get better? We have, KPIs that we can build for you guys and help automate the workflow for management, for, like their quarterly reports, monthly reports, their daily reports, stuff like that. So pretty much everybody within when we say operations platform, like it is an operations platform for the entire operation. So
that's pretty wild. As far as, again, if we're going to focus on the front end and work our way backwards, like, sound like you said an app. So you guys have like iOS, Android apps on top, and then also like, it's a browser-based web apps, or, how does that all kind of play together?
Yeah, from modern perspective, like kind of continue on John's point, like cloud infrastructure, you throw in apps on every platform, like your customer working on like iOS, Android, like web apps and stuff like that. We do a couple of customizations here in the Middle East as well, just to make them more available through different infrastructure requirements. Because what we have in the US, when everything's public cloud and everything else like that, not all parts of the world support that. Sometimes you have to be on private environment, and it just depends what's possible. At the end of the day, like we're solving one issue, like John mentioned, this communication issue, right? By bringing everybody to cloud, people can communicate freely. When something changed, everybody knows, everybody on the same page. Nobody say, I didn't know, I didn't get the email, something bugged out, I did this, so just kind of like make sure like we all just become part of the digital economy nowadays. Like, because at the end of the day, like it's just, you have so many technologies around you in day-to-day life. When it comes to drilling or completing the wells, it's, a lot of those technologies are just not around you. So you have 2 weeks on with technology, 2 weeks off of technology when you go actually on your 2 weeks on, gas from their perspective. But we still work with a lot of machinery from a lot of different things from that side. And more tools, just easy for the guys. Like I feel like we always feel like when, technology gonna come, but what we as industry start realizing is the technology is now day-to-day life so much more advanced. Like we already all trained. We don't need to be trained on like how to use mobile, how to use this, how to log in, how to, like make sense of KPIs, because we, like the watch now track our KPIs. So when we walk, and it recognizes when we walk, when we sit, when we run, calculates all our like, like different sensors. Like the little watch on your wrist right now does more than, most of the systems for drilling. So like, and then you go back to work and, you start typing your report again. This is kind of like your main, I think one of the main kind of approaches from the industry. Like people already does not mean the age. Like you should see like, 60-year-old company, man, when, like you will bring the automated report, they're like, I'm so glad to see it before I retire because I've been wanting it for 20 years. Like, so it's just like those kind of things solve the most issues, and doesn't matter how they even done, it's just Is it AI? Is it a GPT or whatever? As soon as it solves my issue and I can rely on it, I'm happy. Like I don't care what what actual algorithm been used, how it will been done, and everything else. Just like at the end of the day, it's all about, does it make my life easier? Like does it free my time? Is it convenient to use? Is it reliable? Is it scalable? Those are the questions we answer. It's not about, is it run on CUDA video card, or it's like, what's this behind? Is it edge, cloud? Like, why should I care? Like from my side, this is main approach of the
So basically, to translate for you, Bobby, it's just cloud based, and we do have an offline version, a desktop version called AI Spaces. That, correct me if I'm wrong, Marat. That's a C++ type of thing. That's like our backup, just in case anything ever happens. It's syncable and all that for the EDR data and all that kind of stuff. C++ on that, Marat, for Spaces, for well planning and directional drilling software. Okay, yeah. So that's another software we don't really talk much about, but we do have like a full blown directional drilling software.
Okay, no, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, because again, some of the things that we want to dig in here, because I agree 100%, like on like the business value, and at the end of the day, like a company man or someone sitting at a desk couldn't give two shits if you're using React or plain vanilla JavaScript. But at the same time, I think one thing for John and me, like for our audience, is we maybe want to get into like what tools are being used that enable you to deliver a product that the users don't realize is, that they're using it because it's just such good, software. So I think with that, like to your point of like, you do things in environments like, say, in the Middle East where like there's data sovereignty and everything. Like you can't say, well, I'm using AWS US East, 1, so to deal with it. And they're like, well, we don't want to give you money, so deal with it. So maybe how have you architected, even just your dev process to be able to, are these containerized? And then, say, the fact that you were able to deploy apps, say, on Apple and the web browser and all that, like, are you using, say, something like React Native, where you have to code once, it can deploy anywhere? Or is this more like, do you actually have like native iOS developers and so on?
Yeah, from that perspective, is like when we talk about stacks, right? So stack is not important early stages. But the most of the decisions you make early stage in your architecture are going to live with you later on. It's just like in the fast pace of startup, you won't have time to go back and refactor everything and change on the fly. So sometimes you just marry to certain stacks as you go in, like as you grow as a company and learning new things. Some of the things will be there behind you. But one of the things what we do on our end is when you start changing quite a bit, like you have to nail that data model and approaches early correctly, because later on that will be your limitation of the system. For us, 100%. We were a little bit later entrant to the industry when it comes to an analytics side and operation side, and this was a kind of biggest advantage. So we knew what's missing. We know based on feedback from the customers, everything else from that side. So the early decisions we made still, makes us, like a kind of one of the front end systems going further than anybody else from that time. But a lot of your stack will start changing when you start streaming 200 rigs. Idea like the optimization become an issue. The first level optimization, you know what to do. And sometimes you feel like you already went through everything possible, because at the end of the day, nobody cares what stack you use. It has to be absolutely fast. Everybody compliment us on fast. I usually hate ourselves because I feel like it has to be faster and faster and faster from that side. So then we start changing a lot of the stacks, trying to figure out like what segregation of data I can use for time series data, what can I use for my logs, what I can use for my metadata. So system becomes a little bit more agile from that side. And from us is, we use Java on the back end, from that side, just pretty much enterprise, since we're working with enterprise customers. And I apologize, guys. But from front end side, like normal JavaScript and pretty much cloud based is a lot of libraries you keep using on that front end. Initially, those libraries get you started quicker, but customers like to have customization. And that customization will walk you away from libraries very quickly as well. So initially you start with something you can just configure, then you throw everything you coded for 6 months away and you build from scratch, everything else. But you cannot start there because you never know what customer will want in the end. So you want to move very, very quickly so they continue in a continuous manner, get the feedback. And once you feel like no more feedback coming on it, you just go back and redo from scratch from that side. So this is why architecture from our end is just more like go as fast as you can to make sure you don't lose the customer's idea. And then once you do it, then you go back and start cleaning it up a little bit from that side. So that's very important time, because if you don't clean up at some point, at the bigger scale, you start failing on that front.
Yeah, that tech debt doesn't go away, right? Yeah, it's baggage that comes with you.
Yeah. And then
I've got a follow-up question on that, Marat. What would you recommend, or what's some advice you would give to someone who might be out there that has an idea for a software startup in oil and gas? What advice would you give them specifically around architecting with the data sovereignty piece, right? Because a lot of people stateside have no idea that basically outside the US it's a completely different structure. There's different regulations, there's all kinds of different expectations and data standards that come with that. Like the data physically cannot leave the country, so it has to be on servers within that country. So your plan of using AWS or Azure on your EC2 instance in the US doesn't work anymore, and it also prevents you potentially from securing very large, big contracts with the big IOCs, which look great from an investor perspective. And as a startup, you want to get, but then it comes with all these stipulations, right? It's like, what are some lessons learned or advice that you would give just based off your experience?
Based on my experience will be like, if you're just getting started, don't worry about it. Because in 5-7 years, by the time your product is solid enough, because if your product not solid, you have nothing to do in Middle East or any other of these countries, because you're going to be failing very quickly and it's going to be expensive from the get-go. You have to get certain stage of the company to even, start thinking, geographical expansion. The beauty of US and economy, like when the users can make decisions very quickly and, this transactional economy, this is perfect time to grow. Like by the time you grow in 5-7 years, my personal belief, everybody will switch to public cloud. And an idea like it might be certain limitations, but those limitations will lay on the shoulders of Google Cloud, Amazon, Azure. Those guys will be carrying those safeguards and everything else. But this is why I feel like from that standpoint, just align with company you like and go from there. From other side, what we've done to be able to do it like at this stage when not every country switched yet. We utilized the absolute minimum of the available pre-built functions for us, like on the cloud services. So we kind of used our own stuff. So in this case, we stayed independent. Like we universal. We can deploy tomorrow on Google if we want to. If we it doesn't change our code structure or anything else like that. It's just like Bobby mentioned, just it's all containerized. We don't care what the name of the server is. And sometimes you talk to customers that they don't understand in details. They're like, "Oh, we are AWS. Oh, cool. I'm AWS too. Oh, I'm Azure. At the end of the day, it's just a freaking server. It's almost like, what TV do you use at home? I use Sony. Oh, I'm also Sony TV. This is a discussion we're having. I know it sounds like AWS S3. It's just a storage, it's SSD inside somebody's data center. That's all it called. Oh, I like S3 buckets. It just means absolutely nothing. It's at the end of the day, we have the server, which has to have memory, processors, on that front, and kind of like a database and it's better like work perfectly and have like a good, like a reliability standpoint. But this is why I feel like sometimes we just
I'd also add that you probably want to be financially prepared for something like that, because it's a long process. Be patient, and it takes a while. Nothing overseas is quick, fast. So you have to have money in storage to be able to come in there and hold off for a while to earn those contracts. So
no, for sure, that's a very good point that I feel like a lot of people don't, or at least outsiders to the industries that come in, their top targets are always the super majors and the IOCs, right? Because they see, okay, well, they've got the budget. And it's like, well, you're going to spend 2 years trying to get into one super major. And you're probably going to do a bunch of free shit, and they're going to hammer you on price. And then maybe you get the opportunity to participate in a bidding process. And then, yeah, but you're like spot on. There's so many companies that come in and they focus all their resources on the big budgets. Well, they run out of their own resources before they can secure any of it, and then they're shut down. Right?
Yeah, so I would say build a good solid product that people like, and then at that point in time, you can start to consider it. Not only do you have to build the product, but then you also have to stack a little bit of money, have a little excess to be able to do that type of stuff. So.
And it's kind of funny, like
sure.
John. So build up on your point, John. So
if we're going to work. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit delayed, so if I interrupt anybody, I just feel sorry. But the idea is like kind of building on John's point. When we think about big budget, right? This is what misconception of startup. Oh, this company is $1 trillion company. They can definitely afford $1 million from my software. Like the budget means absolutely nothing. Like what the company size is and everything else. We have to understand, like it's almost like a person. The richer the person is, the more he counts the money. Like idea, like most of the companies doesn't matter the size, what the conception was of them, like being 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago. Like every company right now focus on cost. We as industry need to figure out how to do it cheaper, more efficiently, and stuff like that. We've been, successfully doing it for the last 5-6 years. That's why you have to always strike in your mind that cost of software will be dropping down. Because idea, like, and then we part of that same focus of customer, I want to reduce cost overall and be a cost for them too. Of course, we're saving them on other costs, but at the end of the day, we're still charging for the subscription, right? So from our end, like we always think like our value as a company goes down, like probably 50% every year, like from that side. This is why you have to build twice of a product by year end, just even maintain your pricing. And this is mindset of the guys in that side. Like, first of all, you have to love your idea, like, and for very much, because it's going to be a lot of things like special oil and gas. It's a hard market to penetrate initially. But the demand of customer is coming from home, not coming from the industry. It's like, I want to be able to see it on my phone. I want to be able, like, and this is kind of minimum requirement. You have to have a mobile app. So you have to, like people bring in the home experiences to the demand on the softwares today. So before you even, consider to be valuable, like any so viable product, you have to do all those things together, even in the US. And then you have to do 3 times those in any other country.
Well, you make a good point too, right? Is that you're always essentially behind, right? Like even if you have a great game-changing product today, in 6 months, if you don't keep innovating on it, you're behind because someone else is going to copy you and keep pushing, or they have bigger budgets, or whatever it may be. And so that's no, I empathize with that a lot as we keep making progress on Collide.
What do you think of this competition? These competitions, I always say, like, I know absolutely nothing. All I know is, like, if we go to sleep, some of them might be awake. So like this is why we don't go to sleep. I mean, and this kind of mentality should be in the company. Like, idea at the end of the day, we're serving customers, not competition, or like what's market shares, what different markets look like. Our like a segmentation of the market within the industry is so small for software. Like even thinking like where do I play, where I don't play, is just like useless exercise from that perspective. All we need to think of like how much time do I save them, what's my actual value do I bring, how much excitement do I generate. You know what I mean? Like, and that excitement going to go away, so you have to maintain that excitement throughout. And what's next should we be doing? You know what I mean, based on what we're learning every day. So this is kind of best.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of say when people are worried about sharing their idea, or or they're really stealthy early on with the company, and I think there probably is a time and place, but at the same time, it's like if you give someone your idea that you've already executed on, and then they do it better and faster than you probably weren't going to make it anyways. It's kind of my 2 cents. I mean, like to your point, you just have to keep the foot on the pedal and keep adding more and more value, or else you're not going to make it until you get bought by Landmark, and then they can just keep selling areas and open wells for. Sorry, I've been on Halliburton. I'm sorry if you ever. I've been a little rough on you.
It's been a rough week.
No, I mean, you have to keep in mind, like from that side is, a lot of those companies will start developing internal tools as well and everything else, because and it's a good exercise. I feel like every company has to have some sort of development going just to understand, like the nuances and differences of what it means. And it's just good exercise when everybody learns together. But what industry showed too, like in the last, probably 10 years, my first encounter, my first automation system I worked at drilling was in ExxonMobil. It was 2008, 2009 timeframe, like 15 years ago. We were drilling on Sakhalin, all those longest wells in the world at the time. And the idea behind it was it had an autonomous system for mailing. So I can send my email as soon as my subject line is perfectly aligned. There's a mail server which is going to process it and push it in the right folders. And then sometimes doing more analytical parts on it 15 years ago. You know what I mean? So a lot of companies were working on something, especially bigger companies. But now all of those companies who learn the difficulty, they learn the competitiveness of this. You can get the product within a big company to a certain level. You get excitement of all you guys in, but then the development team moved to another more critical project and product dies. And this gets frustration. The team already spent, a huge budget on the development. I don't want to, get anybody in. So your team has to, get with a very average product and end up doing this. But the majority of customers nowadays, we see switched from that internal development mindset of I want to have more market type competitive products in, because I can also learn on the features requested by other customers, not just from my own team. And this has been a big transition. If you see it internationally, the same as in the US. They will pick up more and more analytical companies in and just try to integrate into workflows, see what sticks. And then what sticks becomes a part of their digital strategy and transformation.
So I did want to get in, because you mentioned it, probably about 5-10 minutes ago, but about data modeling. And if we were going to work back down, say the stack, and just kind of thinking about that. I mean, you guys, it sounds like you're obviously getting data from all different sides of the operations, right? You're talking about MWD and even all the way through to, PDFs and historical data and everything. And so just kind of curious how your data pipeline looks. I mean, you kind of have a staging layer, and is it more unstructured with a MongoDB or a data lake kind of thing? And then do you have an application database that's more rigid or more, for lack of a better term, well thought through data model that's probably more normalized and everything? Just kind of curious how you guys handle processing that data from all the different sources you get data from.
Each workflow, there is almost different workflow on our end. Depends what it does. From that side, obviously files, any file object type structure will be Mongo on our end. This is how we do logs and audits and everything else in AI. From that side, when it comes to just big files, like, we use, a lot of just normal buckets like S3s or anything, just at least to store it up so we can, refer to that file later. And then you go through a parsing exercise when you structure it into your data model from that side. On a time series, we had to build from scratch our own way to handle data. And that's what we call like BI cube technology, like which allows us to pull, thousands of wells of time series data of any piece of it, within like, a few seconds on that front. And, we definitely cannot rely on any sort of database for that. So like we had to do internal full development on how we handle, 1 second data on that front. And it comes to like MWD data, some of that is sub-second even, so we had to go back and readjust our assumptions on the time series to go sub-second on that front. And so it just depends on the stack stuff. But as I said, like on the small scale, you start with anything, and you start changing when it gets slow. And then that's the best outcome, because more technologies you're gonna pick up front. What's gonna happen? Like more likely 2 years down the road, you have more ideas from other companies or anything else like that. What's going on? And you go to a conference and you see some guys dealing with it much more, like elegant way. So like this is why I just start with what works right now, adjust as you go, in the front, and just kind of go from there.
Nice. Yeah. No, I mean, it all makes sense. I mean, it sounds like you guys are just very practical about how you handle that. And then as far as like say ingestion, you're talking about the real time ingestion. I mean, and again, like, are you guys what percentage? Probably 90+% is on the drilling side, and then you're doing are you moving into the completion space, or are you doing a good bit on the completion space? Because I want to maybe get in about, I feel like drilling has been ripe for these types of innovations because they have had that standard of WITSML, where the completion side has much less of a standard. I know they've been trying to push completions WITSML standard, but just curious on your thoughts. Like, has that been like something that's really enabled for what you guys are doing? And are you seeing some of those headwinds on the completion side?
Yeah, I went to completions market last year. So we, build a completions part of AI Driller 2023 on that front, has been growing as well on our end. From us is like drilling is not because of WITSML we're doing all this stuff. WITSML structure definitely helps because everybody bought into this idea 15 years ago and it's working. A lot of the things we're doing despite WITSML, because it's not like the most, best way to send data back and forth and everything else. And there's multiple efforts to go to like different, better WITSMLs when we have more objects, and there is still a question, is it the right way to do it and stuff like that. So I think the drilling industry is just kind of easier because of WITSML, and also despite the WITSML. And just if you know what I mean from that side, right? From what it helps, the WITSML portion, what it helps like company like us, if you're a software company, all you worry about your customers and writing code, you can be heavy like us, like you're 80% on the development side, 20% customer facing, just to understand the features better, train people, onboard people, but like you go very, very fast on development for portion from that side. And with the completions right now, because there is no standard, there is no even standard way to send data from the field. You have to become, from software company, you have to become a logistics company. Because you put your bunch of edge devices and you drive to the rig or to the site, connect,
become a babysitter,
and then you call them and just to double check that what channel 1 is, what channel 2 is, what channel 3 is, and then just because of all this logistics, you cannot charge a software cost to the customer. You charge them extra consulting costs because you have to have a person available somewhere around if something goes wrong. So I don't think on completions, when it comes to data aggregation, it's a full software. It's like a service, and nobody is taking that service. Nobody is done that. I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody is trying to standardize, but right now there is no one agreement of what standard going to look like. Every company doing something different. So I do think completions has a potential to go, away from WITSML and build something nicer. But can we agree as an industry? I don't know at this point, because we're all much smaller than we used to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Smaller companies. We've been consolidating last couple of years, which is great. But what is part of dialogue between the companies from that side? You know what I mean? We don't know. And this is why, like, from a completionist perspective, I feel like it's more of a service than analytics at this point. And the cost of it, what we see today, it's way beyond the value it brings you. You know, I mean, I don't they just want to, all you want is just visualize the data, kind of come back to like AI portion. Like majority of the customers today, without paying anything, just share Teams like we do with you guys right now. And they just share a screen and stream it that's a 2-week meeting. You can join that meeting anytime.
I can't tell you how many fracks I've streamed via GoToMeeting.
WebEx.
Does it solve the issue? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, or you can go through the route of you bring another company, set up everything, all the workflow, pay thousands of dollars to have the same view on the chart. You know what I mean? And I think this industry, we need to kind of come up to the, not even like standard, come up to easy and cheaper way to monitor. Otherwise, it's just like, it feels to me it's a service, not a full software on that front. We definitely do work quite a bit of analytical portion of designs and cost optimization, everything else, but the whole streaming, it's just right now, it's a little nightmare, for any company.
Yeah. I mean, John and I were working
Bobby, are you on a background of completions or drilling?
None of them. I mean, I mean, in a way, I have a math degree, and then I started off at Conoco as a reservoir tech. But then John and I worked together at RDS, where we were one of those companies that was, capturing and streaming the frac data, and we know the pain because we were one of those first companies that was plugging into the serial port, and then it's like, oh, someone switched the channel. Oh, we don't even know what the channel is, and trying to come up with a way to standardize it. And they're like, well, that works on Halliburton or this van with Halliburton, but now I go over to Liberty, or I go over to Southwestern's frac fleet, and like everything's different every time. So it's just, to your point, it's just much more of a, ad hoc thing. And again, I mean, there's even like, say, the cold bores of the world, and, tremendous technology, but I mean, even they have someone on site, basically 24/7, and, they're standardizing, as well as probably anyone, probably a handful more names out there, but it's, John and I know acutely the pain of the completions side and trying to give people any kind of good data. And then it just comes down to real time and what people call real time. Do they really need it? I mean, Well Data Labs solved this problem probably, 7-8 years ago, with post-stage frac reports. So, I mean, are people actually making decisions mid-frac, or do they just need last stages data to look at, 10, 15, 20 minutes later, an hour later? I mean, and is that sufficient? So there's all those kind of questions.
Yeah, so that's one thing I've noticed with the completions is everybody doesn't seem like they're on the same sheet of music with what they want or what they see value in. If I go to a drilling rig and I say, hey, I got this software I'm building for you, give me ideas, I'll get 100 plus ideas within a month. But you go to completions, it's like that. It's just not the same. It's completely different. That's not really our personal background. So that's why it's a little weird to me, is just see the difference on what people see value in completions from operator to operator.
So there's so many knobs, right, on completions, right? And there's a lot of people involved too. Right? It's similar to drilling, I guess, right? You've got reservoir and geology, and you've got all those other things. But I do think that just generally, it's just like you're sitting in front of a giant control board, and none of the knobs are labeled. And you're like, well, shit, which one do I turn first? Like, how do I go about this? Because there is just so much data. Right. And it's not just about like, you've got the frac design, and then you've got the chemistry of the frac design, and then you've got the sand loadings of the frac design, and then you've got how you do like the order of them, how you execute that. Then you've got the well bore, how it's drilled, where it's landed, is it toe up or toe down, the stage spacing, the cluster phasing, the cluster distances. Like there's so many things, right? But I do agree with you that we don't know what to do, like what to optimize, right? Which is why I think up to now, most people have optimized around the operational efficiencies, right? KPIs and how many stages per day, NPT, just like the general stuff. But the
we
dream state
talk about
is
wireline. That's part of the completions, but it's like now you have two separate operations that have to work together. For the next stage to happen while the other one's going on, and it's just like both of them can hold each other up. And again,
the dream state would be
mistaken
ways to understand what the frac is doing in real time and ways to adjust it so that it's better than it could have been had we just followed the engineering schedule, right?
Yeah.
But no one knows how to do that.
Yeah. And then the problem there is like, maybe you could go off of a 3, 6, 12 month cum, but like, you're never going to get the real answer. Was this better? Necessarily.
Right. Well, it was better because the rock was better over there.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's so many variables that make it hard to pinpoint whether or not what you actually did or changed was truly impactful, or was it just part of the variance and the noise of what we do?
That's part of the puzzle we'll have to solve, huh? It seems.
Yeah.
Plus, I noticed that I don't know very much about fracking, but it seems like it's also changing much more rapidly than drilling is, right? Drilling is drilling a hole. It's just changed a little bit of technology, drilling faster, different muds, different motors, different, better, bigger rigs, bigger top drives, stuff like that. But I feel like completions is like drastically changing, right? And I don't know much about like this, what's it called, the simul fracks and stuff like that, where they're able to frack multiple well bores at one time, stuff like that. It's kind of crazy to me that they're changing so fast. It's like they're kind of behind in terms of.
Well, that's the weird part, right? Is it's like, how do you innovate if you can't even agree on not even a format, but a naming convention, just the names, right? Like no one agrees on a standard naming convention for a frac, no less how that should be transmitted and in what structure and in what format, how frequently. And so like, how do you do any of that other cool stuff if you don't know, if I call pressure and rate something different than you do, like we're reading different maps, like that's
I don't know why in our industry it's so hard to get people on board. One of the things that baffles me is, AI Driller's version of our system of record. We have like fully automated reporting. And like, this is the future, right? Like this is obvious. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. Everybody's blown away. Company man doesn't have to do reports anymore. But you go and try to tell an operator, "Hey, I got this for you." It's like, "Oh, well, we can't do that right now." You know what I mean? It's just like, man, it just seems so easy. Why can't we just go to the group as the IADC or whatever it is, and like just change the standard to this like fully automated standard? You guys set a standard and go. You know what I mean? But nope, people still they're gonna.
Well, that's.
Still keep writing by hand until one day everybody's doing it and they're gonna be like, man, I wish I did it earlier.
Yeah. That's the annoying part is it's like you have all these everyone has the same problem, but then they think we all have to come to the exact same solution. And it's like, even for me, like for frac, Bobby and I have been talking about this for years. It's like, just publish your naming convention, publish your data schema, regardless of whether it's frac drilling. If you're a software company, publish this stuff and let other people use it, right? Like holding these things in silos and then letting people do their own things makes it harder for everyone, not just for you. Whereas if like whoever major E&P published, here is our frac data schema, and this is what we use, maybe some of the service companies pick up on it and keep it, just like filters down, right? But no one really does that or talks about it. They might have it in some documentation somewhere, but it's like, because we don't talk about shit in our industry, then no one learns from each other. And then we all have to learn these mistakes at the same time instead of learning and progressing much faster.
But the good news, John, on the good side, like there is a effort going on by industry. It's called OGDQ. It's oil and gas data quality meeting, and it's led by Zoom, our ConocoPhillips. Potentially
Zoom.
Shout out to Zoom.
Potentially might be a good candidate for you guys to bring here. Just talk specifically on what's going on. There is a couple efforts already been successfully tested, so we kind of excited for waiting for them to agree on some of those fronts, and we've been part of that testing as well. But hopefully, like it would that will become what you're exactly explaining, like at least a standard of how we do it from the side, because everybody knows the bodies of completions work. Like you have your wireline, you have your frac side, frac vents, and you have like your drill outs. You know what I mean? But like nobody, as you said, agreed what hook lock should mean, like what tension should mean. From that side, what pressure name. What I mean? It's all channel 1, channel 2, and sometimes they change them in the middle of the job for whatever reason. Like
I was going to say, it depends on what stage it's on.
Yeah. I just felt like if I rewire it, it's going to be better. Like that day specifically.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll just make everybody's like, I think Joe might here.
I think there's two things, right? I think operator-led coalitions, consortiums are way better than service company-led ones, because the service company-led ones typically end up being led by one of the major service companies that have lots of incentive to force their agenda or whatever they want. But the other thing is, it's like we know what a data standard does. Look at what drilling has done and how much further ahead drilling is and all of this stuff than completions, because it has been enabled by having this data standard.
Yeah,
and not even no one wants to agree on it.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like come back to my point, like drilling did not change. When we went on conventionals, we drilled the same way with the same mud, with the same tools. It's just a little bit different formation, and all we need to do, our goal is to make it fast. So all the drilling efforts, like worldwide, globally, in the last 30, 40 years, kind of led to, like operators get together, what VXML should look like, what's 1.31 version A, and then there is some organization came in early, like just to kind of take it more standard. But on completions, we started heavily completing in the US probably back in 2014. So we're kind of like 10 years into it. When we actually start heavily going through kind of growing that industry overall. So this is why I feel like we just need to wait another few years, and 5 years or 10 years, it's going to all get better.
I hope so.
Right, look at this guy.
Sorry, Richard is currently updating my stickers on my cup to make sure that y'all are equally represented.
I gotta get that.
There it is. Well, that was a very quick hour. Do you want to try and do the speed round, Bobby?
Yeah, let's just jump into it. So I guess I'm assuming Marat's more the dev side, but you can jump in if you have a favorite one too, Richard. But what's your favorite database?
I don't have one. For me, I trust our team for those kind of decisions. All I care about, because my background is directional drilling, right? And performance drilling. Okay. All I care about, definitely I get much more in tech. But if you take me from 10 years ago to now, all I learn is things are much more basic than it looks initially. And, more sophisticated, we explain to the guys, more barrier we increase in communication. We need to kind of speak in a normal language, because people think of laptop, and server has no difference from laptop. It's just a larger machine from that side. And I think my main goal is from customers is to make sure we go extremely fast, faster than anybody could ever achieve. This is why we jump into C++ and to a very raw levels to see what the possibility is. But and at the same time, I don't care what's on background, and I don't want customers to care, because when customers start talking language of AWS, use this, use that, what's business value? What are we trying to solve? This is what we should, as subject matter experts, be focusing on. The technical things we do in the oil and gas is not new. It's already been done by millions of companies and hundreds of thousands of industries around the world. We're already behind. So idea is we need to be much more crystal clear. What do we need to solve, and focus on those things, and everything else is nuance. what infrastructure I'm running on. Like, what kind of like a data lake is not going to be bigger than, like Google's data lake right now, what they use for, Gemini and all that stuff. It's not going to be bigger than, like the GPT's database or data centers from that side. But again, from this Collide perspective, like, why would you care how ChatGPT is run? Because you will never have that big of an infrastructure. All you care about what the drilling engineer wants to see.
Enough.
You know what I mean? And this is kind of like what's the main goal of the TO on their front. And on my end is just, I represent users in every dev discussion. I want to make sure we give it quick, because as a user, I want something quick. I want something I can use, I can click around, I can learn. And if we need to toss that feature later on away and build from scratch, let's go for it. Because the idea is like, I'm drilling right now. If it doesn't help me right now, I'm losing money. Right. And this is main goal. I'm bringing to the table coming from offshore, unconventional, on this front. But definitely, like, all I'm learning now is like all the discussions and planning and everything else is just, I try to separate myself from the trying to be even subscriptive on like what technology I've learned from anybody. Like, all I want to be just exactly clear, what do I want from user perspective, and then the team goes decides on everything else.
Well, for the last one, I'm gonna go off script and make a announcement that we've been discussing, but we're soft announcing that our partnership with Collide, where you guys are gonna pull in via our API into your platform, so you guys can enable your customers to leverage the knowledge base of Collide directly in the platform, and additional integrations. We don't have all the details even lined out yet, but we're really excited about it, and I'm excited about y'all's willingness to, look at new and innovative things like what we're trying to do, and you understand how it, integration and distribution of these things, that network effect compounds across both sides of things. And so we're really excited about it. We'll do a whole episode later on once everything is inked and formalized and integrated, and we can actually talk about all the features and stuff. But I'm excited about that for you guys.
Yeah,
we appreciate it, man. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's coming
Marat's
back
always
to the
cutting people off, and he blames his bootleg internet. He always does that. That's what Marat does.
Go.
No, go ahead, man. We're super excited to work with Digital Wildcatters with the Collide GPT, and the funny thing when you asked about the AI, when I ask every single person who asks me where's my AI at, I always say, where's your AI? And they always say Chat GPT. So now we got Collide GPT, by far and away the best GPT type service in the energy, oil and gas industry. So we're pretty proud to work with you guys. Plus, you guys are awesome dudes, you know what I mean? So it's kind of great synergy there.
Yeah, we're excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope it's just the beginning of more things to come.
Oh,
so
for sure.
And this was John kind of from my end is kind of back to your Amazon question, like, what companies should be prepared in terms of infrastructure. So the same for GPT, like we have a lot of enthusiasts of drilling in the platform. Like, this is our main champions. They love things. They enthusiasts of technology at the same time. They like new features and thinking of how it can change their front. So we're really excited to bring the Collide GPT to them. But they asked us multiple years ago, they said, like, look, Marat, when are you going to have this tool to, when I can ask questions and it gives me answers, and, like on that front. And of course, we're bringing it on drilling side when it comes to like recommendations of drilling, like alerts and overpulls. But I always told them, like, whenever somebody much smarter than us will come and build it, and we'll just come with integration and partnership, and, because it's a whole focus, like, you guys need to think through every single aspect of oil and gas, every single business unit needs and project and training this. The team you have is extremely, like, I don't know how you guys pulling it all together, doing all the podcasts at the same time, but that's extremely exciting. So I'm really looking forward for our users to have ability to work with Collide GPT and share the feedback and everything else. So that's good announcement will be very, very soon. And I'm very, very, very excited as well as Richard. And I think rest of the guys, we already have some users waiting for it. So check in daily when
awesome.
It's coming.
Well, perfect. Well, guys, Colin is literally knocking at the door here because we've got another podcast coming in. But thank you all so much for joining. Marat, thanks for staying up with us. Richard, thanks for sitting across from me and acting like we're not sitting in the same room. Bobby, we'll see you in a little bit. If you guys like what we're doing, make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment for these guys.